Imagine, just for a second, that the world as we know it completely shifts in the blink of an eye, right? No massive explosions, no alien invasions, just utter, terrifying silence from the sky. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a thought experiment based on some truly wild realities about our modern infrastructure. We're going to explore the invisible pulse of our planet, a world without GPS.
Okay, let's set the scene. Tomorrow morning, your routine starts exactly like it did today and, well, the day before that. You wake up, you reach over to grab your phone off the nightstand, unlock it, and open Google Maps to check your commute. But this time, absolutely nothing happens. No comforting blue dot, no location ping, no route showing you the fastest way to work. Just nothing. A completely blank searching screen. The device in your hand, which is normally this hyper-aware digital compass, suddenly has literally no idea where it is or where you are. This eerie silence of a completely disconnected device just kind of sets in.
Now at first, you're not going to panic. You look at the screen and think, probably just bad internet. It's that initial, beautifully naive human reaction we all have when tech blinks out on us. You toggle your Wi-Fi off and on, you force quit the app, totally assuming the digital world is just going to snap back into place like it always does. But then, the first tiny cracks in your daily life start to show. You notice your food delivery app isn't updating, which, sure, is a localized tragedy for your morning coffee. But then you try to call a car. The ride-sharing apps are failing completely. The drivers can't find you, and you definitely can't find them.
Within minutes, local delivery and transit networks are completely upended. Drivers are taking wrong routes, navigation systems are leading people into literal dead ends, and city traffic? It's slowly twisting into an inescapable, honking gridlock. Then, the timeline really accelerates. Within hours, major airports start reporting unexplainable cascading flight delays. Out on the open ocean, these massive 1,000-foot cargo ships carrying millions of dollars in goods literally start turning in circles, having to change their carefully charted routes because their digital coordinates just vanished. Widespread confusion sets in globally, and suddenly, millions of people simultaneously realize something genuinely terrifying. GPS is gone. Completely, undeniably gone.
Now, the reason this global panic sets in so incredibly fast is because of a massive misunderstanding of what we've actually lost. Think about it. When you ask most people what GPS is actually for, what do they say? They point to the obvious stuff, right? Getting directions to that new restaurant downtown, finding nearby places, tracking a lost phone. We think of it as this super convenient digital map that lives securely in our pockets. But actually, scratch that. That assumption is entirely wrong.
Section 1. The Great Illusion. It's not just a map. Okay, let's dive into this. You see, GPS quietly sits in the background running massive, wildly complex parts of civilization that you never even notice. Most of the time, you don't even realize it exists until it disappears. And here is the hard reality we have to face. GPS doesn't just tell us where we are. It tells our global systems when they are. Let that sink in. It is literally the invisible metronome of the modern world.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is you might be asking yourself, why would time matter that much? I mean, I've got a watch on my wrist, you have a clock on your wall. Why on earth do we need space satellites to tell us what time it is? Well, the answer is precision. Modern systems don't just need to know roughly what time it is. They need extremely precise timing, calculated down to the billionth of a second, the nanosecond. In the digital age, it's this highly exact synchronization that allows global networks to talk to each other without collapsing. When data travels across the world, it gets broken down into millions of tiny packets. If the timing is off by even a fraction of a microsecond, those packets collide. The networks basically step on each other's digital toes, data gets corrupted, and the systems just crash.
Without that exact, shared pulse from space, just imagine thousands of immensely complex systems slowly drifting out of sync. It is exactly like musicians in a sprawling, magnificent orchestra, all losing the beat. Imagine one violinist plays a fraction of a second too late. Then the brass section comes in a moment early. The percussion is slightly off. Individually, it's a small problem, maybe a minor annoyance. But together, played out across the entire globe, it's pure, unadulterated chaos.
Section 2. The domino effect. When the beat stops.
So the crucial point is this. When that global beat stops, those tiny timing errors do not stay tiny. They mutate. They compound into absolutely catastrophic global problems. Just look at the dominoes that start to fall. Banks use this satellite timing to timestamp high-frequency trades and secure ATM transactions to prevent fraud. Without that exact nanosecond timestamp, financial systems detect anomalies, see strange timing issues, and automatically freeze to protect your money. Boom, markets halt.
Cell towers rely on this exact pulse to seamlessly hand off your phone call as you drive down the highway. Without it, signals from different towers collide and literally every call drops. The very backbone of our internet infrastructure uses it to route traffic. Even our power grids use it. Utility companies monitor the flow of electricity across entire continents by syncing their sensors to GPS time. If that sync fails, they can't balance the grid, which leads to massive cascading blackouts. Global supply chains depend on it entirely. In a single day, the bedrock of our modern civilization would begin to buckle under its own weight.
Now, it's not like airplanes are just going to suddenly drop from the sky. Let's be clear about that. Airplanes and commercial ships do have sophisticated backup systems. Pilots still know how to fly using traditional instruments, and captains can still sail using celestial navigation if they absolutely have to. But without the microsecond synchronization of GPS, our modern illusion of extreme efficiency just disappears. Air traffic controllers would have to drastically increase the space between planes, making air routes immensely more complicated and way slower to manage safely. Ships crossing oceans become drastically less efficient, arriving days late. Our highly optimized, just-in-time global supply chain slows down to an absolute crawl, and suddenly a single missing signal from space becomes every single person's problem, directly affecting the food in your grocery store and the medicine in your pharmacy.
Section 3. The Invisible Pulse. Satellites in the void.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strangest paradox of our technological age. We're grounded in all this massive chaos down here on Earth, but the solution, the source of it all, is literally floating out in the void. GPS isn't some giant, roaring machine hovering over our cities. It's just a group of about 30 satellites silently flying 12,000 miles above the planet, sending these incredibly tiny timing signals toward us through the vacuum of space. And here's a truly mind-blowing fact. By the time those signals actually reach your phone or a cell tower on Earth, they are weaker than the light from a 20-watt light bulb viewed from 10,000 miles away. Let that put it into perspective. Tiny, incredibly weak signals. That's it. That is the thread holding the entire global economy together. Modern civilization entirely depends on an invisible whisper traveling through space, which means something incredibly small is supporting something unimaginably large. And honestly, maybe that's the truest, strangest thing about technology today. The systems we think are so important, the giant visible machines, the massive steel structures, those glowing screens we hold in our hands, they usually aren't the real foundation. We're totally mesmerized by the hardware of our lives. But the true systems, they're the invisible ones, the codes, the frequencies, the quiet signals running flawlessly in the background, keeping time for a world that never stops moving. We take them completely for granted. Until one day, they stop, and everyone finally notices. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Look around you today. Look at the logistics, the communication, the power holding your day together. If those invisible signals from the void just stopped tomorrow, exactly how long would your world keep turning?